Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to go on to posters and charts and the interactive chart, which is quite important because there's an assignment for you on the interactive chart. Let's start off with posters. What is a poster? Now, a poster can either be professionally made or it can be a poster that's made by you. The most important thing for you to remember, there are lots of notes on Learn 2023. I'm summarizing this for you. But the most important thing to remember about the difference between a poster and a chart is that a poster tells you about one specific thing and it's over. You can take the poster down. So it would advertise something at the school. It would advertise something in the town. It would advertise something in the village. It's a poster. Come to the concert on this and this day. Once that day's over, that poster's finished. All right? So that is what a poster is. A chart is something that you put up with information that the children can read about all the time. And it will be something new all the time. I could put up a chart about the silkworm or about the butterfly. And it will be of interest for the children all the time because that butterfly's there all the time and it's going to be there forever and ever, and the children are going to be interested in it. So they're going to go out and they're going to look for more information. So that is more or less the difference between a chart and a poster. Now, even if I'm making a poster, and here you'll find some examples of professionally made posters. Christmas Big Band Bash, all right? And posters normally are people are trying to make a huge big thing of it. So in other words, instead of having a whole lot of writing on it, they just have one thing like this. And this would be up at the library door. Keep quiet. It doesn't say, this is the library and nobody may talk here because it disturbs children. They don't write a whole story about it. Just this. And that's a poster. Short and to the point. There's another poster. The sneaker makes the man. A Nike poster. Short and sweet. Now, whether I'm making a poster or a chart, I have to be careful of certain things that I do on there. If I want to make a poster on this A4 paper, I can't just go and start writing all kinds of things on it that I want to say. I actually have to prepare this. I have to think carefully about what I'm going to do on this piece of paper. I can't just waste it. And just to stick anything old up that looks like a dog's breakfast in your classroom is a waste of time. Don't do it. It's a waste of paper. It's a waste of manpower. So if I'm going to do something, let me do it and let me plan it. Either I want to make the poster this way, or I want to make the poster that way. Either I want the poster to be A4 size, or I want the poster to be a little bit bigger, the size, or I want it to be huge, which would be an A3 or an A1 size. All this costs money. So we're looking at finding an old box, an old piece of cardboard, turn it around and use that side and cover it with white paper. Don't go out now. This stuff is very expensive. Right, so we must decide, are we going to have it portrait or are we going to have it landscape? And whatever it is, I must start deciding on where I'm going to have the labeling and where I'm going to have the picture. I can't have a huge big picture on this page and a little bit of writing at the top. I can't have a big picture at the top here and have the heading at the bottom. It's silly because children look at the picture and they don't even know what it's about. So I need my heading at the top, and then I need my picture. If I want to have some writing on it, I've got to decide how big this picture has to be because I'm going to do the writing next to it. When I do the writing, I've got to make sure that I use the same font. I cannot write anything with capital letters, lowercase, smaller, lowercase, higher case, lowercase, small. I can't. It's an example I'm setting for the children. So I've got to make sure that I'm labeling this the way that I want them to write in their books. The same thing would happen with a bigger piece. I'd have to decide which way I'm going to use it, and I'd have to decide and do it in pencil perhaps first, and put the heading there, put my picture here, put my picture here, and do my writing in between. If I'm going to do the life cycle, I could use this whole piece with a life cycle, but I can't just do a little life cycle on this side here and do a whole lot of writing here. I must do the life cycle big so they can all understand it, and then do the writing next to each one. I hope you all understand this. It's not, people think making a chart or a poster is easy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And you must have it. You cannot teach without a chart. Right, so that's the poster. And I'm going to leave it there because the next one I'm going to discuss with you is a chart. Right, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going on to charts. And you will notice on Learn 2023 that posters and charts is done together. Now, I'm doing it separately to try and make it easier for you to understand. Posters, quick, short, and to the point, and for one particular activity or something, and then we take it down. Charts is what we use in class. I might have a poster in class for the birthdays. That's a poster. It stays up there and then it comes down. But the chart is something I use every day. Now, let's have a look. It's got to have detailed information. It's not just short like shh or do it or whatever. It's got to have detailed information that the child can read and that the child can go and refer to and make reference to. It's used to reinforce my teaching and my learning. It's a teaching aid. It's a tool I use. It helps me to explain things better. And it's used to highlight all kinds of formula. For instance, if I'm teaching about the digestive system, if I'm teaching about the life cycle of something, if I'm doing the water cycle, I can draw it and I can explain it on this chart. And I can put this chart up. Even the periodic table, I could put it up and explain from it. And then leave it up in the classroom for them to see and refer to day after day after day. Right, now, planning the chart. Same idea. If I've got a small piece of paper, I've got a small piece of paper like this, or if I have a big piece of paper like that, it doesn't matter how big the paper is. Don't think that because I'm going to do this chart on a little piece of paper, I don't have to plan. This is more planning than a big chart, because the space is limited. And so I've got to make sure that whatever I'm putting on here is worthwhile. Mustn't just be for nothing. So I'm planning the chart. I've got to decide, does my title go at the top? Do I put some information here and a picture, more information, another picture, and more information? It mustn't look like a pep sale where I've just got writing all over and pictures all over, and it just makes the children's heads like that. And the children's heads look as if they're in a sale. It's got to be done carefully and knowing that the child is going to read it like this, and that is how it's going to go and formulate into the child's head. This is an important thing because the chart is one of those first impressions I told you about that the children do not forget. So this is the introduction that you're going to be using. Now, who's the chart for? You've got to decide. Who am I making this chart for? What do I want to put on this chart? Do I want to put a little bit of prior knowledge or just the knowledge I'm teaching? Why will they read it? Will it be colorful? Will it be in, what are those crayons or those cokies called? Those iridescent ones that glow in the dark? Those are useless. The children at the back of the class can't see that writing. So make sure that you're using either red, black, brown, very dark colors that the children can see right at the back for headings. Your pictures, of course, can be in different colors. Right, how will they read it? In other words, like that, like that, like that, in order. And the purpose, why I'm making this chart in the first place. Not because I have to make a chart or because I'm going to be assessed today, so I've got to have a chart. I'm making it to help me teach, help me make the lesson easier. Right, here's an example, and I call this a very simple chart. For me, this chart would probably get 50%. It's very untidy. Not just because of the dark color, but the writing must be neater. But it's a simple chart. It would be for grade R, and it would show them man-made structures, and it would show them natural structures. And here is another one that we would use either in grade 7 or grade 8 or 9, is the mosquito life cycle, and it has all the different stages in it. And next to them, I would write the headings. Why do we use charts for teaching? It makes teaching interesting. It diversifies the teaching material, so I'm not talking all the time. They can do some talking about the chart. It's easier for the teacher to reach her objectives. It's easier for me to get the information into their heads. It can be used interactively, and we're coming to that in the next session. Interactively, moving, active. Inter, between us, between the teacher, the child, and the work. These things are moving in the class. It can be, it's a good method of assessing, because I can go back to this chart now at the end of the lesson, and I can ask the child questions about the chart and see whether the child understands. And it helps the teacher reflect, and it helps me improve my teaching methods. If I see that they didn't understand, or if they tell me that they couldn't see it properly, I know then that this was not successful, and I must do something about it the next time, not keep making the same mistakes over and over with a chart. Right, tips for making the chart. We've spoken about this, the same as a poster. Once you've decided, you've got to organize it on the paper in pencil. And the thing I want to tell you about is, once you have put the colors in and the pictures on and you've written on, rub out the pencil marks. Don't keep them in there. It looks terribly untidy. The text must be neat. It must be bold. It must be in the same uppercase or lowercase. And you must decide, you're not going to write something like, let's say, the butterfly. And I write the butterfly. I don't want the children to write like this in their books. I want them to use the same case as they write. This is a capital in the middle of a word. It's grammatically incorrect. This is a capital in the middle of a word. This is a capital in the middle of the word. We don't want them writing like that. So I've got to be very careful about the way I write, and I have to be very careful about my spelling. You were very, very lucky. In my day, there was no such thing as spelling check. You had to learn the spelling. You just go onto the computer and do a spelling check. So there's no excuse for spelling mistakes. Right, so I hope you understand this. It's in a nutshell about charts, but it is on Learn 2023. Just before we finish, I just want to go through, because you'll find this in your Learn 2022-23 as well, is displays. What are displays? It comes in with charts and posters. It's anything that you have made or anything you've got the children to make that you display somewhere. Now, where would be the obvious place to display something? Yes, it would obviously be in the front, in the school, as you walk in, and you would have a display up of work that was done this week by the grade 8s, work that was done this week by the grade 10s. If there's a library in your school, there'd be a display in the library. Advertising books that are there, advertising authors. Today's World Literacy Day, I'd be advertising that in the library. Perhaps we'd have children arriving dressed as their favorite character. One would be Dr. Seuss, one would be Alice in Wonderland. All right? So the displays are things that you see in the school, and it's advertising the work of the children. And I could put a display up and I would show children what has been made. There's also displays that you'll find as you walk into a school in a cupboard, where you'll see all the trophies and the cups and things that they use to hand out at assembly, if the school is rich enough to have them. That would be a display. It's where you put things out. If I'm having people tonight for supper, I would have a nice display on my table. I'd have it set nicely, I'll put a bit of flowers on, I'll have nice serviettes maybe. That's a display. It's something I've put out. So I hope you all understand this, because next we're going to go into interactive charts, as I spoke to you about just now. I will be emailing you tonight, and I will be sending you some more notes. Right. You start again.